We shred a lot of paper. A lot of the confidential paper on campus comes to us. We shred it out. It gets sold. Everything, all of our grades of paper gets sold. We make money off of it somehow. Whether it's shred paper, what's called low-grade paper, brown craft wrap, and other stuff like that. All books. If it's made of paper on this campus, with the exception of paper cups and napkins and tissues, we can recycle it. We can make money. Somebody just asked me, why not paper cups? Why aren't paper cups recyclable? That's a great question, and that's probably the #1 contaminant in our recycling stream is paper cups. To keep a paper cup from leaking, they have to line it or infuse the fibers with polyethylene plastic to keep it from the fibers getting absorbed with the liquid. You either use that, or they used to use wax. They don't use wax very much anymore, but especially in hot coffee cups. They do make recyclable coffee cups. They're called double-stamped cups, to double-thickness paper. The problem with coffee cups is that a lot of them migrate onto campus from elsewhere, so a lot of that material is coming onto campus. The Food Services offers a 15-cent discount if you bring your own coffee mug on any beverage. If it's a hot beverage, if it's a cold beverage, you get a 15-cent discount for bringing your own mug, whatever size it is. Do you have a question?
Yeah. How does that, the kind of commingled recycling that, like, Sanipack does?
Okay.
How does that differ from? I mean, they've got everything mixed together.
Yeah. And this is a big topic. And I was just asked this question today operationally. Commingling, there's a big fight amongst waste managers, particularly recyclers, over commingled or single stream recycling versus what's called source separation, which is just, source separation is the old school where you sort everything out and it gets picked up separately. Now, if you guys have Sanipack or even Royal Refuge, I think, you get a big 90-gallon rolling container and you throw everything in it, except for glass, for the most part. Not everyone remembers that. So what happens is, all that material gets mixed together, and then the hauler sells it to what's called a MRF, Materials Recovery Facility. They sell it by the ton. They call it just commingled. You can get $50 a ton for commingled around that. And that's everything. That's all the plastics of all grades, all the papers of all grades, and a lot of trash. And this thing goes through these huge warehouse-looking facilities where there's conveyor belts where people will actually stand up against these conveyor belts and pick out. One guy's a plastic picker, one guy's a paper picker, one guy does this. Everybody has their job and they pick out material. It works okay for the most part. The problem with commingling is the cross-contamination that you get. The United States, just a few years ago, 5 to 10 years ago, and particularly the Pacific Northwest, and one mill in particular up in Washington, had a reputation of producing the highest quality recyclable material in the world, and we could get top dollar for it. Now that's taken a big hit because all the new single stream has contaminated a lot of the other material, and so it doesn't go into the processing facility where it gets remade into paper or plastic pellet as a pure stream. It's contaminated. Like a lot of the paper will have glass shards in it. A lot of the plastic will have metal in it, or other types of non-recyclable plastics. And so you're getting more of what's called outthrows, where a whole bale of material, a whole bale of recyclable paper that's been processed goes to this mill, and they reject it, goes into landfill, and it's full of glass. Because glass does ugly things to milling equipment. And metal does ugly things to plastic milling, pelletizers. So you're finding more and more of this material is getting sent to the landfill. Not all of it, but more and more. And that's a big criticism of single-stream recycling. It's convenient for people who are living in their house. They don't have to source separate. It's convenient for the haulers. And people are making a pretty good amount of money off of it, but it's impacting the end user. It's impacting the ability to buy a purely recycled product.
On a slightly different note, have there been any people raising concerns or issues about, like, the information that's on recyclable paper. Notice that I'm
Yeah,
on a
that's-
bazillion Social Security numbers.
That is
and
for, that's our shredding, that's a shred box.
Is that an issue at all?
No, our shred is, usually this building stays blocked. I unlocked it for you guys to come in, and all this material gets up and it gets shredded. All the material with, that comes in a locked container, and then
Have you thought but you haven't had anybody fight you over anything like that?
No, not at all. They actually appreciate the fact that, well, as far as like the shred material going to the mill or whatever.
Or for that matter, getting down here and getting through
No,
the system and being
because-
actually shredded and,
yeah,
and by
we-
whom?
Yeah, no, that hasn't been an issue. Actually, a lot of the folks really appreciate the service that we're able to provide. All of our people who do this are adults. They're not really students. They have disabilities. They don't really care what they really care less. They're happy to have a job and they can shred the material. So, and then when this building is not open, it's secure. So no, we haven't had any issues with that.
Yeah, do you have the same problem with like boxes that freezer, like pre-processed freezer food comes in? Like,
Yeah.
Is that the same issue as with paper cups because it's sort of
Yeah, that just
waxy?
goes in the trash. Those,
Okay.
and the food service folks know that we don't take waxy cardboard. It's just,
Okay.
you know, and I wish they could do better. A lot of produce people ship their stuff in wooden crates, and those are 100% recyclable, of course. But yeah.
Quick question about I work in a restaurant, and the only thing that we our biggest waste in the kitchen is bean cans, and you know, you're supposed to rinse them out real quick, throw them in the recycling, and take them out later on in the night. Sometimes they don't really get rinsed out, and like there's kind of food debris, and then I was wondering what problem that might impose on the system, like food contamination.
Yeah, that's an issue. Not everyone is considering us to rinse things out. And they usually ask you to rinse lightly. You don't have to like scrub it out. So if there's a little bit of food residual, it's not a big deal. But you know, if a half a can of beans went through the MRF, they would get tossed. They wouldn't take the time to clean that material. And a lot of facilities do wash. Like a lot of the plastic recycling manufacturers, they shred the material and then it gets washed before it goes to their processor. So a lot of the processors have strategies to deal with it, and they wash the material. But you know, a big contaminated half thing of yogurt is too easy to deal with.
I have a question. In my house, a lot of my roommates tend to default to putting everything in the trash. I always try to encourage them to, when in doubt, just put it in the recycling. And it seems like they have to sort through a lot of trash anyways. And I was just want to run that by you if that's a good decision. It's better to err on the side of recycling, right? Because you don't want it in the landfill. And I also wanted to ask, are paper towels recyclable?
No.
Paper
No.
towels.
So like paper towel, paper napkin, that kind of stuff, that's usually a super low quality paper. When it comes through, it's like dregs, and it's usually not. And then there's usually contamination issues with Kleenex, paper towels, toilet tissue that people don't want to handle. And then as far as erring on the side of trashing it or recycling it, you know, that's a lot of problems with commingle, I think, because a lot of people get confused, and with the different types of materials that are coming out on the market, a lot of stuff isn't. PLA, which is this compostable plastic, has been a big problem for plastics recyclers, because people confuse PLA with like number 2 or number 3 or number 4 plastic, and they throw it in their recycling. It's not recyclable. It's compostable, but it's not recyclable in the traditional sense. And so this PLA gets sent to these plastics manufacturers, and then when they run it through their system, it disappears. So they pay for it at a ton, and then they run it through their system because of the nature of the material, it evaporates into nothing. It disappears. And that's just one problem with the kind of the commingle system. Commingling is great. I don't want to bash it. The thing about what we do here is we produce a whole lot of very high quality material that we're able to sell. Like you couldn't do this at home. Like it would be difficult for you to make any money off your recycling at home. And so commingling makes a lot of sense. They're getting better at the sorting technology. The Germans have made some amazing sorters that are optical, that require, because everything reflects back a different wave.